And plus, it costs enough money as it is to. One of the problems is making a vacuum chamber that can withstand that much heat. Mm-hmm. It's not something that's easily done.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about it. It's. I'm not lying to you. That's a tough thing. You'd have to make.
You're not lying?
I'm Tiger.
I was going to go down that path. You're a liger.
Anyway, go look it up. Yeah, take a look. Welcome to the July 8th edition of The Electric View. I'm Neil Thompson. Today we have David, Jim, Heather, and Robert with our special guests Phil and Michael, currently at EU 2018. We get to talk about what's going on at the conference, what's new with the Sapphire project, and what tests they're currently doing with it. Please take a quick moment to like and subscribe.
Yeah, go ahead. You should be able to add him.
I should be able to add him. Yeah, let's try. Okay. Trying to add people to the call. Add people to the call. Okay.
Yeah, you got to select their name, and then it'll say add to the group call.
There.
Because I was able to add Dad last week.
Now it should be working, I think. Looks like he's there.
Hey, Neil.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey.
Hey, how's it going?
Hold on. Let's get, can you see us both?
Yes.
1 second.
Oh, yes. Bring them up.
Oh, nice. All right. Yeah.
Well, here we have the fantastic
The alpaca?
Sapphire project.
Hello.
And, so how are we doing, Neil?
We're doing very well. Just trying to accept your thing. Oh, that's not even on my screen. That's why I couldn't accept it. It's on your screen.
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, not so bad. We've had such a fantastically wonderful conference. With the first half of it, 2 days of it, in Bath, and we're about to move on to the Quantock Hills in a while. But yeah, it's been an absolutely fantastic success. Absolutely brilliant.
Nice.
What do you reckon there, Michael? What did you think from the outsider's point of view to this country?
Oh my, that's a big question, right?
Yes, tell us.
Okay, the simple things first. I can only understand every other word you all say. So I have to keep asking, what?
Yeah,
what?
Yeah, in this country, I have to speak very posh, otherwise Michael doesn't have a clue what I'm talking about. Absolutely not.
Yeah. No, it's been great. It's been great to be over here. It's a beautiful city, Bath. I spent an entire day on Friday walking around, about 10 miles at least. I was out till 3 a.m. last night partying with everybody.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I didn't know that. No, I didn't invite
I wish I was there. I wish I was there.
Don't we all?
Don't we all? Yes.
Such is life, people. Anyway, should we get Michael to explain a little bit what the Sapphire project is all about and where we're up to date with it?
Please, yes, indeed. That would be fantastic.
Should I start from the beginning? I don't know what audience this is.
Yeah, well, Neil, what do you reckon? How far do you want him to get into it? From the start, or
we're pretty versed here. So you can go. We talk electrical engineering all the time. So throw it in the deep end if you want.
Okay. Well, this last year, you could say that we were putting most of our efforts towards getting our measuring devices calibrated and figuring out what sort of regimes we can run the plasma for a long time. We want to, light it up and let it run for a day or 2 or 3. So that's been a lot of the focus that we've been going through. We have 4 papers that we're working on. They're kind of in the status of reports right now, mostly for the internal the review board and our funders, but hopefully they'll be turned into IEEE papers by the end of this year. I think they should be.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Do you want to explain exactly what the sapphire is for people who doesn't actually know?
That's what I was wondering. Right?
You carry on. Explain exactly what it does and what it is.
Yeah. So Sapphire has a very clear business mandate, a contract to explore, to test, and try to disprove as many different electric sun models as we can. And we're starting with the Jurgens model, which is Don Scott and Walt Thornhill have kind of laid out what we should do, how we should do it.
Right.
Put the anode in the center, cathode on the outside, and it's been a challenge, of course, to directly connect anything going on in the chamber to the sun. It's not an obvious connection that one can just make. The chamber's about as big as a truck, and we fill it with various gases. We have various atmospheres, various pressures, various configurations of anode and cathode, a wide range of voltage and current regimes, and a couple of the things that are the most. Did you all see any of the results with from was it the summer? When was it that we reported on the?
Well, it's been going now 18 months in full flow, isn't it? Since January last year.
I was wondering if the people here saw the last conference video where we talked about the new elements appearing in the chamber.
I don't know.
I think we talked about.
I was at the conference. I saw that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we continue to report on that here at the conference. Something else that came out from our recent work in the chamber is if you say, for example, that the spherical shells we get in our chamber, those glowing spheres.
Right. Yes, the layers.
Yeah.
The very
Right.
impressive. Very impressive.
Yeah. So those we were able to verify that a couple of things about them. One is that their irradiance, which is the power per square centimeter, irradiance is like watts per square centimeter. The irradiance of our double layers is actually a little greater than the irradiance of the photosphere of the sun, which is a pretty awesome, result to have. And it's stable and it's not hurting anybody, at least we don't think so. And if you take that analysis further and you say, well, if we could take our chamber and scale it up, how big would our chamber need to be in order to have the same total power output as the sun? And the reason that's a really great question to ask is because you are in effect that way predicting the size of the sun, which is something that nobody has done in 100 years, really. I mean, it's been the same theory for the last 100 years, why the sun has the size it does. And so if you ask that question, you actually get kind of close to how big our sun would have to be if it were a sapphire double-layer discharge the surface area of the sun is 6 times 10 to the 28 centimeters, which is a number that's just so large it's hard to figure what that means. But the sapphire discharge sun would need to be about 0.1 times 10 to the 24th centimeters. So we are within striking range of being able to actually predict how big the sun would be if it were an electric discharge.
Wow. Very cool.
But that stars are different sizes, so you're talking about just our sun.
Just our sun. Right. And there's a lot of more variables to look into with that, like, different chemistries, different pressures.
Okay.
We can change a lot of levers, and it very well might turn out that we would be right on for the size of the sun or a little above, but the fact that we're in that range is really
Well, I was talking to Monty Friday night about pressure and the fact that all wind is ionic, and the way I see it is the fact is it's like a boat going through water. It creates waves, and it's the waves you feel, not the water itself. So charge through the atmosphere is what different air pressures are. So it's not actually air pressure as such, or gas pressure. It is actually moving the charge creating the pressure. I mean, would that affect the thinking in sapphire? Because you talk about photons, which I totally disagree with. So I'm just the pressure thing, though, because it's an electrical pressure.
Yeah, it definitely is. Yeah, so we know that there's. So you were talking to Monty about. So we know there's pressure changers inside of our double layers. Yeah.
Monty Friday night.
Yeah,
We just sat down and gassed for 3 hours.
right.
I got to midnight. I went, I've got to go to bed. He went and carried on for hours. Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, so that's a good, that's a great question then. How would the pressure,
Yeah.
the electrically produced pressure
not air
changes?
pressure or gas pressure, it's
Yeah.
electrically produced pressure. Would that change the parameters of how you solve it? Or, I mean, you get the same results because you're still putting pressure in there, but being electrical pressure rather than wind pressure.
Well, that could be a good way to look at, I mean, if we started from that lens, then take that question and put that question into the Earth's magnetosphere or into the sun's corona, right? And ask the question that way.
Okay.
An electrically generated pressure. Because right now, for the sun, we have a gravitationally produced, I'm talking about the theory, gravitationally produced pressure, and then on top of that, thermal effects, which then produce more pressure.
This is the other thing I said.
Those are the only two things.
The other thing I said to Monty is there's no real such thing as radiation. And so heat is produced by a moving charge. And so again, I'm looking purely at the electrical. So even adding temperature is that almost steering away from it because you are looking at temperature rather than the actual process of temperature, which is moving charge. Does that make sense?
Kind of. The whole temperature thing is such a minefield. It's just so hard for me to even go into because you really have to ask, if you're talking from a plasma physics point of view, okay, well, is it in a collisional state? Is it in a non-collisional state? Is the average magnetic field density greater or less than the Boltzmann kinetic density? And I can't handle those questions. It just makes it all too difficult for me to.
Well, this is
think
what we
my
like
way through.
about these round tables. We throw these questions in and we all have a little idea, but obviously you're the expert, so you have to give the answer.
You have to give it, yes.
Right. I mean,
no pressure.
I think that
no pressure.
most of us on the Sapphire team have, are pretty feel confident that it can be quite a distraction to be talking about temperatures.
Yeah, no,
because we don't know what we're using that word for when we talk about the sun.
Because I forgot what I was going to say there. Because it's because I'm always going back to an electrical cause. I have to sort of go and because I'm doing this weather mechanics talk and I've just written, and there's so many parallels between what I see with Sapphire and what everyone else has said. Because obviously I'm looking. For some sort of feedback from what I say in my talk, the context. But everything I've heard this weekend, obviously what I know before, lines up exactly with those plain coverage. But I'll be waiting to see what Wow and you and Monty have to actually say. I said, I've gone over a lot more with Monty, obviously the other night, and Monty actually stopped talking. And he listened.
Which is pretty rare, right?
Oh, absolutely. When
I didn't say that. Gotta cut that part out. Keep that part.
He listened. What are you
Feels the
talking
editor
about?
stuff.
And he just listens to you, and you actually get him because he will actually straight away tell you if there's something wrong or he thinks it's wrong. He'll tell you straight away. Yeah, and so for him to actually stop was quite encouraging.
Yeah, right. Because there's different ways. Just going back to what you were saying about the pressure and what we were just talking about temperature and how to look at it electrically.
Yeah.
If you
Very sunny.
right. So if you apply a electric potential across the plasma and it starts stripping off electrons, right? So you get this current flowing.
Yeah.
You're looking at ionized atoms, which you would say, well, that must be a very high temperature. But is it really? I mean, if you're just pulling off electrons, why would you?
Because
call
that's
that
another question I was going to say. How does it determine temperature? Because quite often charge is cold and sometimes it's hot. I mean, what is the mechanism to suddenly make it go up or down in temperature? Because obviously everything is hot compared to absolute zero. Mm-hmm. So even to an ice cube, 1 degree above zero is hot. Yeah. Destructively hot as an ice cube.
Right.
So it's all gradients of heat from zero upwards. Mm-hmm. It's just whatever we're comfortable in this heat. But it is can only be a product of charge, of charge actually interacting with something else. So I was saying to Monty, if you hit a lot of charge on a bit of metal or on any object, it needs to expand its surface area to take that charge. Otherwise, it blows apart like comets or whatever, going into a planetary field. So now this is what I was thinking about the tungsten tip.
Yeah.
Because basically it tried to, as far as I can see, tried to expand from the inside. There's something in the crystalline structure actually stopped it. It's only when you touched it, it fell apart.
Okay.
And so I'm thinking that he's charging getting to the middle of the tungsten that might make the middle almost collapse. But somehow on the outside, but then you think, well, is that because the outside of the tip is actually negatively charged compared to the actual middle of the charge? Yeah. Or the other way round?
Yeah.
No, but I'm obviously thinking about something.
Right. Yeah. And we have this, anybody who studies physics, we've all been taught how to do these conversions between forms of energy. So from heat, you can then convert it to a temperature, and then you can convert that to electron volts, and you can convert that to joules, and you can convert that to lifting things. And in our minds, this is what we were taught. It somehow makes sense, and it's all the same. Yeah, but it's all the same. And part of what we're running up against when we're thinking through Sapphire and its role in electrocosmology is, well, no, maybe you can't just keep doing those conversions. Maybe that doesn't.
Well, are you looking at it backwards? Because you're starting with temperature, and how's that affect the electron? Is it the other way down? You're looking at the electron, how does that affect temperature?
Well, sure. Right. But what I'm saying is that as a trained physicist, you're taught that you can go both ways, no problem. It means the same. You're not going to get into trouble. You'll be just fine. Just do the conversion.
But surely it does come down to the fact that it is one way. I would have thought. Yeah, you can exchange energy, but even thermal energy. But initially, it's got to be the charge. It's got to be the charge acting on a particular surface, as far as I can see, that would actually cause the energy. And if you can't, that's why metals get hot, is because it can't expand. And so it has to expand some way, so it converts to heat and glows and things glow with heat. It's because the electrical charge going.
So you don't. What about shining lights on metals? Is that a different thing?
Well, I see very much go along with light not being a wave or a particle. There's an interaction of the electromagnetic field being energized. So I actually starting to think now that when I look at a star, I'm looking at it in real time because the contact has already been made. It's the old wow flow business. Once the contact's made, it's instant. So when I look at a star, I'm looking at it in real time. I'm looking hundreds of millions of years in the past.
Wacky idea.
Yeah. I'm not.
It wouldn't be the first time I've heard it, though.
Yeah, but can you see what I mean? If it's that instant pull of the top, once you make a connection, then you don't need waves or particles. All you've got to do is energize the electromagnetic field between two objects. And once that connection is made, then it's instant.
See, I hear what you're saying, and I'm thinking, my first thought is, well, how would I prove or disprove that?
No, exactly. Because I thought
that is the correct way. Yes.
To actually, how would I actually set up an experiment to do that?
Right.
Because I've actually thought about, communication with speed map, just be using a binary pull, no pull, 1-0. But it's actually, how do you, get that connection, say, between the star? To actually, do that non-tug business, to actually get that 0 and 1 binary communication.
Right. Because I do think that there's however stars communicate, it's got to be faster than what we call light.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of different ways one can talk about that.
Well, that's light as a wave, but not light as an energization of the electromagnetic field.
Okay.
Or am I going off on one? I mean, does that make sense?
You can say as an energization of the electromagnetic field, but I don't know how that's different from from Maxwellian light. How is it any different from a Maxwell wave through?
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I'm still thinking this through. Going back to what Wow said. never really been satisfied with light being a wave broadcast inside my head for some reason. Something's just like,
right.
this didn't make sense. Well, it doesn't make sense, but it didn't ring true. Mm-hmm. And so whilst I was talking about this rope business, you wave it, and it's a slow wave down the rope, but you have it taut, you pull it, it's instant. Right. And so that's what I've been thinking down these lines.
Because I wonder if what you're perceiving or intuiting when you say that, if maybe whatever when you say, when I look at it, I feel like maybe that connection is not through light. It's not through what we would call light.
Well, maybe. Well, I think it's still the electromagnetic spectrum, the EM spectrum. I don't think it's as a wave. I think it's more the direct magnetic connection, going at that sort of speed. Carry on, Neil.
I was just going to say the only law that's going to really works on that scale that seems to apply here is Coulomb's law. That would be the one that would be instant. It's just the amount of charge, and it is directly. It's basically the same one as gravitational law, but you can't change mass very easily. But if you could somehow get like if you were talking about another star, say from ours, let's say Proxima Centauri, and its cell, its heliopause is connected to our heliopause somehow or very loosely. But if this started fluctuating with charge, the other star would notice it instantly without light being required, because the charge would be fluctuating. It would be causing instant fluctuations all the way down the line because of that law, wouldn't it? Maybe I'm wrong.
Well, if you take the law as describing it accurately, then yes, what you say is true.
But practically.
Changing charge, it does get you into the Maxwell's field equation, so I don't know.
So could it be saying the simplest frequency rather than changing charge as well as those Maxwell's?
The changing frequency?
Yeah.
That would, I don't know. That would just be part of the field equations which propagate at c, at the speed of light. So I don't know if that would.
As like a layman thinking about it as like if there was a connection between this thing and that thing, and it was a string, and the string was a finite length. When one end was tugged, the entire string would move simultaneously, so that end would instantly react to the other end being pulled, right?
No, I can see that. If you've got one star connected to another, and we do something here, then that other star must be affected by it, and down the line one would assume. It's just like very small comets hitting the sun and causing CMEs. You know, there is a massive effect on something little. So, would it be dangerous to the other star to actually even try and do that? Some little planet, what's going on? Right.
Well, it seems to be that's how we affect, like Mars, or how where Jupiter is seems to affect weather on other planets. It's becoming. I'm not sure exactly how. That's one of the things I'm very interested in, is how does this work? But clearly we're beginning to see that it's not just gravity, and it's not just it's not just an electrical connection, like an actual tail making a connection to another planet. Actually that's something that's different. That's an electromagnetic type of phenomenon. But for an actual, like, why does Jupiter being at this position seem to affect weather here on this planet? This is weird to me, but it seems to hold true.
The tail thing is, so we need to actually create a tail from the sun almost to actually stretch across the distances we need to get to another star. Because then we would get that instant connection. Do you reckon? But to actually create the sun into a comet is what we're talking about. And obviously, You make that be quite dangerous.
Yeah, it sounds dangerous to me.
But who on the small scale?
I don't know. I don't think so, but
By having two sapphires and then creating one as a comet, however we do that, and see how that affects that one.
yeah. We've done
that'd
some
be cool.
military work in the chamber, but in terms of like looking at this temporal question, the time, that's just so.
Time.
It's just so no. It's just like we're talking nanoseconds, to be able to distinguish anything. So we're just not going to be doing that for a while. That level of, if you're talking, that's what CERN does, right? That's why it's $1 billion, is because they have to be able to measure things down to fractions of a nanosecond.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't need that, would you? If you've got one sun, you've got another sun, and you've got a tail across the other, you'd see it. It would happen. It wouldn't be a nanosecond. While it's in the tail of this sun, then it would be constant.
I don't know. I'm just saying I don't know how you would, because we seem to be talking about could things be instantaneously connected.
Well, I'm exploring this.
Right. So I just don't see how we could. We wouldn't have sensitive enough tools to answer that question. Exactly. Yeah, just wouldn't. We just don't. Yeah.
Any questions, Neil?
No, I'm just trying to think about. You're right.
I was
There's
actually
no questions.
the one thing that Dr. Claridge was bringing up was the dimensional analysis, etc. And I remember going through all that and just pulling my hair out as far as going from one type of variable, putting it into another one. But the thing that I find kind of fascinating that I just ran across recently, and I'm wondering if you have any insight into what Dewey B. Larson was talking about as far as like his reciprocal theory. I don't know if you've been exposed to it. I just recently ran across it, but it's an entirely different dimensional analysis based on light as a unit.
No, I have no idea what you're referring to. No.
Okay. Yeah, just as far as this, but points of interest, as we peruse around, as the internet it continues to mature here, we have access to so many things. But he was a compatriot of Linus Pauling, but a very interesting idea. But the dimensions tend to drop out pretty rapidly in his model, and it's a reciprocal theory playing with 1 over r. So.
Okay. Yeah.
Anyway, so
I have a question.
Sorry about that. Yeah.
All right.
I have one or two, but I'll follow up after Jim.
No, just pressure and the electric field. Has anybody gotten into the details of that yet? I mean, one of the things that we tend to think of pressure as being, it's not directional. If you're in a room, the air pressure on you is the same on all sides. But in an electric field, that's not the case. And actually,
There's a voltage gradient, basically.
You increase pressure along the electric field direction and decrease it. That's the real reason for a pinch. Okay, that's Donald Scott in his filament model. He destroyed the mechanism that was that we used to think for a pinch, where it was a balance of the pressure inwards compared to along the filament. But what happens is, very simply, that pressure is supposed to be due to there's this random motion of molecules bumping into each other, for example. There is, in an electric field, you reduce the random motion. That's the effect of dethermalization. But that also means that you decrease the pressure in one direction and increase it in the other way. That's why a pinch narrows. It's because you decreased the pressure across the electric field direction. That's why there's a pinch. You've decreased the pressure inside. That's what's not talked about in the models for a pinch. The original model we had for a pinch, and this is even in early EU books, like I forget if it's the Electric Universe or Electric Sky, they talk about a balance of pressure from charge being pushed along a filament compared to inward across those magnetic field lines. But if Don Scott's right, you don't need pressure to push charge along a filament because the magnetic field isn't wrapped around it. So the whole model for a pinch was just blown out of the water. But what does happen is if you have charge, the more you get charge flowing actually along the electric field direction, the less random motion there is, and that is pressure. That's the cause of pressure. So you've decreased the pressure, and that's what causes a pinch. I mean, it's that simple. And but what that means is that
you decrease. You're saying by taking the pressure down, you'll cause the pinch, yeah?
Yeah, you've actually. I mean, if you think of pressure as being caused by like this random, the way we think of it, like you learn in beginning physics, it's this random motion of molecules bumping into each other. But you don't have random motion if charge is flowing along a filament. And specifically, you've decreased the motion across that axis. So you've decreased the pressure.
If pressure is electrical, then you'd have to take the current down to actually make that pressure less. Yeah?
What you've effectively done is you've made it so that an electric field basically makes pressure instead of like this unidirectional, omnidirectional thing we think of, like it actually makes pressure it gives a direction to it.
I see what you're saying.
So I hear what you're kind of like a conservation law argument that if I start with charges bouncing around randomly, and then they have a certain amount of energy, kinetic energy, and then I change that somehow, like an electric field. I change that so now there's a component. They all share a component of velocity going this way. In order to conserve like total energy, I would need to decrease the amount of random motions in the perpendicular directions.
Well, right. That's effectively what you're doing. I mean, when you think about it this way, in a really strong electric field where you could have all the charge flowing exactly along the electric field direction, there should be no pressure from those. If the electrons are flowing one way exactly and the protons are flowing the other way, there is no pressure from those in a radial direction, is there? There can't be.
Right.
So,
I think they're just spiraling, if I'm not mistaken. But
in the real world, yes. In the real world, you're not going to have zero pressure in the radial direction. But all I am saying is that
it would be reduced.
It's been addressed over and over, this dethermalization effect, that how an electric field transfers the motion of the molecule, so you're not measuring really. You have less random motion, so that's electric dethermalization. But you just have to take that to pressure. The argument to pressure. Pressure is not due, if it's due to the random motion of molecules bumping into each other, and you've just made the motion more directional, you've actually given now that effect that we call pressure a directional component. And it is that simple.
Because the difficulty I have with that is that how I understand the argument, I have to take electricity out of the picture, and I just say if I have a bunch of billiard balls that are neutral, mm-hmm. and pressure is them banging into things, and then et cetera, I go through the argument. I can picture that. But as soon as I bring in charge, and we say we put this field in place, and the charges start to accelerate, I see that as I'm adding a lot of energy to the system. So I'm not going to there's no need to decrease any random motions in the radial direction whatsoever, because I'm actually adding energy to the system.
Well, I heard from the like in reading The Electric Sky, that there's an area that is the electric field is aligned and it is not very hot, basically, above the sun. And you'd probably know more about this than I do. And then it gets into the corona, which is very hot, where there's lots of collisions, apparently, that I've heard. And then, as the temperature gradient moves off and so forth. But because, the electrons and the ions are colliding in that area, there is a sort of semi-neutrality, but then they get aligned again, and then they're off in the downward slope.
Is it collision causing that heat, or is it the movement of charge? Is it accelerating away? Because it accelerates from the actual sun as it goes further away, and the temperature goes up. So I see there's a direct correlation. The fact is the movement of charge creates the pressure and creates the heat.
See, this is why it's so difficult for me to discuss temperature these days. My head just goes round on these things,
Yeah.
We've got stuck at the trap already, and we just started.
Right. You feel the trap closing in on you, right? As soon as Philip says one more thing, boom, the trap goes.
Well, I had a question.
Yeah,
Robert.
The moving charge creating pressure and temperature. Both. I have to. I can't see any other way. Charge will make things expand, and if it can't expand, you'll get more heat. Metal can't expand, so it gets hot. Just simple analogies like that. I can only see both as a product of moving charge and not.
So if we took your metal analogy and we said the metal is totally free to expand in the z direction, but not at all in the x and y.
I think as long as it can expand, it needs to expand its surface area. So as long as it does, it doesn't matter where it does it. As long as it can actually expand its surface area to take that extra charge, I don't see any problem with going whichever way it wants to, or being forced to.
I just thought I would ask it in terms of your metal analogy. But
so as long as it expands in some direction, if it can't expand, it gets hot, which makes it expand. We see expansion.
Yeah.
That expansion is obviously the molecule going really fast due to the input of charge, and it creates heat. So it can't, whereas if you put it into something which is can take the charge and can expand, then you won't get as much heat. It can expand naturally rather than having to change that expansion into heat. Yeah, I think.
No argument for me.
That's all right.
Well,
somebody had a question.
Yeah.
So Robert, you got a question?
yeah.
Yes, I did. Because at the conference last year, I briefly spoke with Walt Thornhill, and because I think I spoke with the younger gentleman that you're partnered with. I can't remember his name now, but I have samples of a devitrified analcime from Upheaval Dome, and basically we were about just.
So you said like 4 words in a row that I don't understand. A what? What from what?
A devitrified form of analcime, which is analcime is a mineral that's found in the earth. But it's been devitrified, basically.
What does devitrified mean?
It's basically it's a crystal that's basically turned. It was molten and stuck back into. It's not in its glass form anymore, so they call it a devitrified form. So, but primarily Upheaval Dome is layers of sandstone. So, since if we were thinking that the possible transmutation had occurred. And even Walt said that it was possible that the Sapphire project might be interested in it because you guys had mentioned there was possible transmutation with the barium and titanium last year. So if you guys would be interested at all of me sending you some samples, that would be I would more than likely just maybe help you guys on the way, or if anything.
I don't know if the samples would help at this point, but any yeah, it would just be a whole separate study, and we'd have to start with some.
Well, Sapphire's so tied up with experiments on anyway.
Yeah.
To actually introduce anything else into that at this point.
Yeah, I don't know that would help, but
okay. Well, how about the X-ray diffraction papers that I have?
Well, it would be good if it were if it was of situations that are similar to ours. So maybe a plasma discharge, or maybe high temperature, iron. As long as it's kind of close, then definitely we can probably read it and learn from whoever did the work.
Right. Because I think Bruce just wrote a paper. Bruce Laybourne was writing a paper, kind of working on that, thinking that the discharge event that caused Valles Marineris and possibly the Grand Canyon were like sister events, and Upheaval Dome was just like a small blister in that event, and you have blister effect. You can see that kind of like through Billy Elverton's work, and so that's what we're leading to. And then plus with the finding of this announcing, if you look it up, this stuff looks completely different than what announcing we know as, and so it's like it's been changed basically. And,
well, see, maybe you could find some university that has a contact in the geology department and a contact in the X-ray.
I spoke with Dr. Bill Cassidy from the University of Pittsburgh, who's at the time he was one of 5 recipients of the Barringer Award, so he's kind of like a guy that knew his stuff. He accounts for like half of the meteorites collected on Earth, so it's like in his personal collection. So and he had his doctorate. His doctorate student who was going for it at the time took him to the Smithsonian 3 different times, and it came back with inconclusive results. It was like 60% composite sure, and the other stuff they weren't unsure. That's why we had to send it over to NASA for the X-ray diffraction, and that's where it came back primarily calcite and analcime.
Okay.
You know, it might be helpful, Dr. Claridge, if we could get reference to what, like the specific things you're talking about with what you're seeing, the element things. I'm a little bit foggy on what you were mentioning, but I want to learn more about what you're finding as far as some types of transmutations that you're seeing.
Yeah, so you're going to have to wait till we publish something. I'm not at liberty at all to be sharing.
Of course. Yeah.
Fair enough.
But we want to.
It's really interesting, though.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, so much wants to be said, but
right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait for the papers.
We're anxiously and ideally patiently awaiting, but we're more anxious. So.
Well, I guess that's why I'd ask, because if anything that I could maybe have like added to maybe help in a paper, if you saw that kind of opportunity, I'd be glad to help. That's all.
Yeah, like I said, anything that's along the same lines, where there was some kind of elemental analysis done in some situation that's anything like what we're doing, yeah, that could be helpful because it's new for all of us, right? None of us on the team have any expertise in plasma discharge transmutation.
Let me see if I can get this. There's a reference that I'd like to just get your input on. Let's see if I can find it fast here. But there was the Rossby waves. Heather actually brought this to my attention recently, and it was it's a composite that they've done. Let me see if I can find it here. Hold on. Yeah. And I'm interested in your read on it. I think it's here. I don't know if you can see my screen there.
Pretty small.
Okay. Let's see this shot here. Have you seen this floating around on the interwebs?
Yeah, that's the sunspots from the North Pole or the South Pole, isn't it? The northern hemisphere.
What is this highlighting?
This is a composite of it's the SDO data from a point of view from the North Pole of the sun.
Yeah. Okay.
That's the sunspots going around.
Right.
It's hard for me to even really determine
what's going on,
how they're moving. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing the thing that's interesting is we're seeing like this counter rotation, very similar.
Again, I'm seeing rotations going both ways. So
that's what I'm seeing too. Yeah, though it could be a trick, but I think
it's a typical Don-Scott-Burton calendar. Yeah, you've got really stuff going on in the middle as well. I almost saw
it going this way.
Yeah,
going this way.
No, it's right. It's a typical Birkin current, which is feeding it. So you've got charge going in and charge coming out of the pole, but with a lot of the charge coming out of the equator, the same as my sun model, my Earth model, where the majority of charge will come out like a Faraday disc, in the middle, straight out. But because it's a sphere, you get the internal currents coming up as well, and so you get this the majority of that plane coming out, but you get these with the sun because you've got two layers of sunspots, whereas on the Earth you've got a lot of water in the southern hemisphere and a lot of land in the top, and at the bottom the currents can go straight through the water to the Earth, whereas the top is coming through land, conductive water, non-conductive water, and so that's why we only get hurricanes and tornadoes, or hurricanes and typhoons. Thank you. In the northern hemisphere. In the south, all the charge can go directly to the Earth through the ocean, round the land, Antarctica. Whereas in the north, a lot. Maybe I could show you this. Where's me square share screens? Help me now.
I don't know which version you're on there, but it's on the
little plus sign. Usually.
Call, or I don't know. There's a plus sign, I think.
That's yeah.
Oh yeah.
This man's a scientist. You can tell that, can't you? Okay. Start. Let's come down inside.
Got it.
Share options is cool. Hold on, then I'll come out of full page mode. We need to get to. I need to come out of full page mode now. I can't find.
Don't worry, we're very understanding of this process.
It's my lack.
So just relax and yeah, this is it's always the tricky, goofy, techie stuff.
Really, really good. Okay, let's
go to
this. Yeah. Okay, we go back to this.
There you go.
All right.
No, yeah, Michael sorted it out for me. It's the clever one.
Zing.
So, Neil wouldn't have seen this before because I've done a talk on the weather before. So here we have the lovely little Earth.
Yeah.
And when we go down to the ocean and then to currents, we see this is like the return current from the Earth. So this is what's emerging, and we have this central band where you've got one torus around the bottom, one torus at the top. But because we have it coming in straight from the aurora, that's a space, sticky mouse. So it's coming in straight on, and it can go straight down to the whereas up water. Here it can't. And so basically, when we actually get up to the higher levels of the atmosphere, to the top of the atmosphere, most of the coming down to the top is actually the return current. It's going clockwise, and the current going in is squeezed down this band. Whereas in the south, because you've got the easy access to the Earth, most of the current to the sun actually goes into the south, and the return current is squeezed. And so what we have is we have all the hurricanes and the typhoons actually in the northern hemisphere, because it has free access to the Earth in the south. But because we've got a complete mess of land, sea, conductive and non-conductive, all the hurricanes will always happen where the current is going in near the equator, but they're trying to force their way back to the north to go into the North Pole. Does that make sense?
A little. I hear the idea of currents going in and out of the Earth. I see the wind phenomena you're referring to, like that
moving charge. That's moving charge.
So this is where, to you, they sound like you're saying they're part of the same sentence, and I hear two different things. So I think maybe I don't understand what you're saying.
Okay, so you've got charge going into the top and coming out to the top. You've got charge coming to the bottom and going out the top. So you've got the verb and the come. But because more can get into the bottom, it's the easier path.
Right, so that's the current description. I understand that.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, it's my bad science language. Yeah. So
then there was a comma. It wasn't even a period. And then you're talking about.
Yeah. Well, you said wind. I said don't forget, all wind is ionic. It's charge trying to ground. All this wind around the Earth is charge trying to ground. And so it comes straight in under the aurora, goes straight down through the atmosphere, and then goes straight
But if I do this, it's not charge trying to ground.
No, we're talking about the Earth.
For a planet,
yeah,
and the wind's on a planet.
In most cases, I mean, even if you've got two boxes, one full of air and one vacuum, the one they try to equalise pressure. Right. Is that air going over there, or is that charge going over there, drain any charge over there? And so I see all wind as ionic. I'll have to think about you waving your book at me to use. But basically, all Earth is ionic. It's charged. It's the charge coming into the Earth and trying to ground.
So I know that I am not a meteorologist, but I thought our weather models are okay, and no one's taking into account charge.
No, I am. That's what I talked about. Yeah. You know, which we were doing a couple of. I talked about this on Neil's show a couple of months ago or something. And it is a complete.
Well, there is a couple of jet streams. Yeah, they're pretty look like ring currents to me. I mean, there's definitely something going on. There's a cohesiveness that a normal thermal wind just doesn't explain on many levels. But I think that the higher you go, the more rarefied the atmosphere gets. Once you start getting into, I mean, it's going to respond easier and easier to EM forces. Once you get closer to the Earth, like where we're at, it's not something we respond well to. I mean, it's very dense.
If we can come in from the top and go down through the atmospheric layers, charges are beginning to actually interact with each other. Because when Berkman comes to work on the Earth, there's so much negativity coming out at the top, negative charge coming out at the top. It's got to come in and literally go around the outside of it and then go into it there. That's the only way it can actually get in there.
So I also lost you there with the geometry of the going in and coming out and equator and stuff.
We've got the whole of the. This is all spinning one way. That means that's the return charge coming out. But we know there's going to be a Berkman coming out. Yeah. Okay. So if we go, all right, let's go. So sorry about you people in Canada, but you know this is new to Michael. I know we talked about this a while ago. If we go to this depression, if we just
creatures of repetition. We like repetition, actually.
You see that the return current is the overall radiation, and the down currents from the aurora are literally the lows. Especially itself, it's nice. And so we know we got radiation, which is the higher pressure, and we know we got the low pressures, which is the down. You might think it, obviously, and so it has to fight with each other to actually, especially in the north, to actually get down to the surface. It still wants to ground, but because there's such a big current coming out of there, like in the south, there's a big current going in, which is this is speed, so it's hitting the electrical field of the Earth, and so its charge is speeding up from underneath the aurora, and the return has to come out here. Whereas in the north, that is the return. Return current.
So when I look at the data for currents going in and out, if you just spin one of the poles, they're very elaborate, beautiful, like sheets, parallel sheets going in, out, in, out, in, out. So I don't usually think of this like it's all coming into the north and all going out of the south.
No, it's got both. But in the north, charge is being squeezed into this area here because the major out current is the north, whereas the major in current is the south. It still has a return because that's the return, but here we've got the return there, whereas here we've got the in there.
Bruce Laybourne talked about this in the EU conference in 2016. The Thunderbolts project just released this one. He's talking about like a delta Y circuit that's coming and being fed in through, just like what Philip's talking about. But he's also talking about like perpetual high and low pressure cells that are like equidistant to themselves in geometric patterns. There's one lake off of Iceland, and then there's a lake or an island off of Russia that's a perpetual high. The one off of Iceland's always low. and then he matches them up like a delta Y circuit. And he's just talking about what's going on inside the Earth and being expressed through the atmosphere. I think you two should get together and really talk, Philip. And
I think because I'm
you can almost
going by
complete the whole circuit.
what's happening. But if that is the major return coming from the Earth back to the up the Berkeley coming, then charge must be going in at that point. And if we actually look at the circulation of the that is going now in an anti-clockwise manner,
Right.
which means is a down current. So that down current is being squeezed into that area all the way around. So the charge is having to come in, if we look at it from the top. So, this is quite a wide Berkeley current with the actual just the edge of it is the return, whereas that is the down current, whereas the major bit is the actual return current.
Right.
Yeah, so there's
He makes reference to that somewhat similar because he said when you had the Hurricane Irma making that hard right turn towards the lightning-rich area of Tampa Bay, the area in Idaho was going supersonic with like earthquakes. I mean, they had like over 200 in like a day and a half. And so I think that was one of them was the return current, and the other one was the incoming or whatnot. So he's just kind of like he wants to talk about atmospheric weather patterns and climate, but he's a geologist by trade, by discipline. So he's focusing on more of the electric patterns that go underneath the Earth. Like I said, if you two got together, you with the atmospheric knowledge and him and you could almost complete the whole circuit and really come up with something.
No, I think so as well because I mean I'm definitely onto something with all this.
Right.
I don't think without too much doubt.
So I think actually whatever questions I ask you now are probably going to be on other people's minds. Are you talking tomorrow or?
Well, tomorrow's the day off, and I don't know if it's going to be Tuesday or Wednesday.
Okay. So that's why I think maybe it might be beneficial if I keep asking some questions.
Yeah, no.
Okay. So there's some picture you have in your head about the current flow, and you're saying words like in and return, but it's not translating to. There's something that you're seeing when you say those words that I just am not.
Oh, I'm referencing to what Bruce Laborn's report was in his conference in 2016, and then his recent podcast.
I know that you're talking about that, and I didn't understand that talk at all. But I'm asking Philip now about what he's saying.
Okay, so this is a Berkeley current coming down on the Earth, but most of that Berkeley current is coming out, whereas the sheath that's going in is being squeezed right around the Earth to this blue bit here. So that is
in and out. So when you say, is it like one of?
So we've got two halves. We've got two halves. You've got to treat the Earth as a sphere as two halves, and so there's current going in and then out and out. But the majority of the current is going in at the south pole.
So in and out, is it? Am I supposed to picture like
rings? Don Scott's model,
okay,
with cylinders within cylinders.
Okay.
So what we're seeing here is a cylinder within a cylinder. You've got a cylinder going in there, and the other cylinder coming out here. Whereas in the north, it's the other way around. You've got the cylinder there going in. This is the big cylinder coming out. So even though both poles has charge going into it and coming out of it, as in a Don Scott model, more charge by a long way goes in through the south because it can have a direct pull down to the bed.
Okay, so I can look at you're connecting the circular motion of the air to
down currents,
down currents or up currents. So I guess you know the difference of the right and left.
Ben Davison actually thinks it works the other way around. I'm totally disagree because basically that's the summer's hemisphere and that's going in a clockwise, which means that is a lower. That's a low, and it goes straight down underneath half of the least resistance from the aurora down through the air, which there interacts with the water, which gives us our weather, the H2O molecule, where I was talking about losing charge. Did you hear about that? So it's changing the H2O molecule. And when you go down from vapor to water, you've got to lose energy. Mm-hmm. And so that energy is electrical energy it's losing. And that is what wind is, it's ionic. Because it's a loss of energy of the H2O molecule changing from vapor to liquid, and microburst is down to solid. So you get two lots of energy release which has to ground, and that's why you get the microburst with hailstones, because it is the release of energy from the water vapor to liquid and to solid, and that release of energy has to then ground. It's electrical in nature. Does that make sense?
We just changed topics, so I'm trying to.
Yeah. So basically, the charge is coming here, but we can see it very easily on the South Pole because it comes down. It comes down as the lows, and then it goes down to the ocean bed to the South
Okay,
water.
so I can picture charge coming in, current coming in, and it's spiraling. And it's heading towards the surface of the Earth.
Yeah,
and then there's something else you were pointing to about a return.
Yeah, well that's it. So the major comets, by the time they come down through the atmospheric layers, they've come into these rather than being one big input, they've split into individual cells.
Okay.
And basically, they are the down currents into the Earth. And when they interact at the 250 HPA, which is the jet stream, they then are hitting the electrical field of the Earth, which makes it all speed up. It's entering, the charge is actually entering into the electrical field, speeds up.
And then the return, does it go follow the surface of the Earth and come out at the equator? Is that what you're saying?
No, it's not simple. But your atmospheric layers like sapphire, and the contact layer with the Earth is different to every other layer above it. This is what I'm to get onto. Is because clouds stay up there and fog stays down there, and so there must be a process, obviously, that causes that. So clouds are negatively charged, which agrees with Professor full state of water. And so it's literally the change of the H2O molecule that gives us our weather. It's the interaction of the charge coming in, rubbing up against the charge going out. Because we also have, when we have two currents going in the same direction, it's whether they repel each other or whether they pinch. We go back to this pinch, because that can happen. You get two currents going in the same direction, If they get too close, they pinch and then you get an explosion. And so I'm looking at the H2O molecule actually causing these, because even when we have two down currents, which you can see easier, back to wind, going back to that. Because as we even see, that salty water is attractive, so most of the wind is actually over the water, everywhere, because that's where the charge is trying to ground. When it gets to land, it's already grounded, so you ain't getting that much. But if you're getting really close, actually, we might be able to. Let me just get the other one up. The other one I use, might be able to see it, the actual overall field. So I'm going to go back to Sapphire now. It's slow, isn't it? I'm using it. Come on.
Now, one thing though that's really clear in the Rothschild picture is where the current density is the greatest, and
yeah, because we can definitely see that this is not fluid dynamics. This is electromagnetic dynamics. Because if it's fluid dynamics, one would flow into the other. But these have definitely got, it stops. So you've got, that is the northern hemisphere, that's going in the clockwise, that's the return current. That's clockwise, and that's the return current. But they're actually keeping away from each other because they're both the same charge. Otherwise, they show each other. You wouldn't get these massive grey line where the charge stops unless there's something to actually stop it, and it can only be electromagnetic.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I don't know my fluid dynamics enough. I would know that neutral air would not behave that way. I just don't know.
No, in my opinion, it's got to be electromagnetic. Yeah. It's got to be, the return charge, which is in the north, these are the highs, which is clockwise, rubbing up against the little lows. the drilling through the overall radiation. And at these points, you can get the that's where the water will form.
What's TCW?
Total water content, or total cloud water.
Yeah.
Sorry. And basically, where you get, so you even get it where you get a high rubbing up against a high, you're getting a line of convergence, and clouds, or the change in the H2O molecules happen. And so the H2O is very important in actually regulating our weather. It's like on Mars. They have these dust devils, and they run across their rovers and that, and they found that there's no change in atmospheric pressure because there's no atmosphere. So why does even the dust devil form? This is a direct discharge from the atmosphere to the ground, and so we know wind is ionic. So this is just proving it here on Earth. That wind is ionic. It's not air pressure. Air pressure is a byproduct. It's like a vacuum cleaner. That's a vacuum cleaner. Something is spinning it, just like a vacuum cleaner, and that causes suction, causes low pressure. So it's the spin causing the low pressure, not the low pressure causing the spin. That makes sense. Anyway, back to Sapphire.
What a great show. Thank you guys for joining us. It's really a pleasure and exciting to be part of the conference over there. So thank you.
Yes.
Right. So let him do his final bit about Sapphire. What you see, where you can be taking it, and we'll let you go. No pressure.
Exactly right. Where's it going? Right.
Electrical pressure.
I know.
So what do you think it's going to reveal?
Well, again, the three of us have very different agendas, which is fine for the whole thing. And I will be very happy this year if I can get my RF measuring antennas shrunk down enough in size so I can fly them around through my double layers.
Your what antennas?
Oh, radio frequency antennas, right?
Okay.
Yeah. Because that's one of the things there's an enormous amount of radio data that we have from space, whether it's galaxies or stars or supernovas or, that needs to be entirely reinterpreted.
Right.
With this idea of electric double layers. Yeah. Because electric double layers are going to have certain signatures to them. And what Sapphire needs to do is to learn the basic rules of that. So say I have a double layer that has this pressure, this voltage drop, and this atmosphere. What is its radio frequency spectrum? Now let's increase the pressure by, 2 torr. How does that change the radio frequency spectrum? Now let's add a little bit more oxygen.
So if you put a bit of that in, you're putting charge. So is that what you're reading? Because if wind is ionic, you're putting charge into the chamber, which is putting your oxygen in, and we know charge gets off radio waves, and so does that alter the fact that you're not actually altering the pressure, but you're altering the charge. So you'd expect there to be more noise.
I just know it's going to change, but it might be that there's certain regimes where it just rings like a bell, and it's a very clear radio spectrum, very narrow.
Very, very interesting.
And then there might be other regimes where it just becomes noisy, and so we need to learn the basics of all that in our chamber, and then take that knowledge and hand it back to the astronomical community and say, here, reinterpret the last 15 years of radio data with this, with this model, right? Yeah, so then Michael Claridge will be very happy if that happens.
Yeah, we all will be.
Yeah, seriously.
You can come back and do a jig in now.
Exactly. Yeah, you bet I will.
And hopefully Neil will be in next time as well. How's the college going?
Great, yeah. Absolutely.
What's the inside joke there?
Oh, it's I wanted Neil here, of course, and of course, okay. Yeah, I couldn't afford it. Commitments and all that. The stuff on all those for the camera out home. It's expensive, It's not cheap.
No, it's not. It's not.
No,
I would have loved to have been there. In fact, this is a treat. Just
good.
just getting a chance to see you two again, and it's just great. So
I agree totally.
well, we
Where do you want to go, Michael?
Other
Appointments.
yes, but I'm very happy. Thank you for
Thank you
Thank you for
very
being
much
here.
for joining us today.
Nice to talk to you guys.
Absolutely.
And I'm looking forward to. I'm going to be heckling you when you give your
Well,
talk.
I'll message you on Facebook and give you the link once it comes through. Or you can just go to Facebook. But we'll get you and you can, watch yourself.
All right, bye, folks.
See you later.
See you later.
Thank you.
Take care.
All right, people. Well, I think that's about me done as well. I've been up since about 6 o'clock this morning, and it's been a long day.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's awesome.
no, that was
what
that
a
was
treat.
fantastic.
Thank you
so
very
much.
much.
Thank you so much.
Yes,
No,
thank you.
that's okay. I mean, it's what we're here for, and it's a pleasure having him on board, really. And so anyway, I look forward to seeing the video as always and sticking it up. And we will talk again soon.
I
Sounds
do hope
great.
so.
Sounds great.
Sounds
Really
good.
enjoy the
Sounds
conference. Have a great time.
Yes, I want to see
Fantastic.
lots of pictures.
Right?
See you
Right.
later.
See you later.
Okay.
Bye bye.
Bye bye. Wow, what a treat, huh?
Right?
That was
Awesome.
totally crazy.
Holy cow.